On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are talking about Star Trek Discovery 401, Kobayashi Maru, right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on the continuing Star Trek conversation the two lifelong friends have been having since they were 6 years old. My name is Matthew Carroll.
And I am David C. Robertson.
Davey.
Matty.
Let's talk about Discovery, man.
All right. But, I think first, I do want to say, before we get into this episode, I don't know if you know anything about this. I don't know how closely you follow along.
I probably nothing.
Star Trek Discovery was pulled from Netflix just a few days before this episode dropped.
Right. Yeah, so you might have some listeners out there who haven't even gotten a chance to see it yet. I did hear about that.
Yeah. So, globally, they're not going to get it until early 2022, if I understand correctly, when Paramount Plus globally rolls out. So,
man,
it sucks. I understand everyone's anger, and there are quite a few angry people. And I'm sure it was some little business snafu they just couldn't get around or something.
It sounds like they just wanted to start using Discovery as one of their shows that they're like, well, if you want this show, you got to buy Paramount Plus now.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, there are lots of little contract negotiations with Netflix, though. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes there's you can't put it on a different service for so many months after you take it off this one, stuff like that.
Maybe. I mean, it was clearly they want it on their service when it rolls out. It's just, it sucks that, globally people can't enjoy it at the same time. So we are going to get into spoilers here.
You care about non-Americans? Gross.
I do.
I thought you were a patriot.
There was once upon a time where we were non-Americans. But then we made America. No, all I gotta say is there's still a pirate on the bay. Yarg.
Me sees out in the distance on the waves. A way to watch the show.
In international waters. Yeah, this is some of the Jason, when we were doing DC on screen, Jason would say, a pilot or something would leak, and we were like, yeah, we're going to do a review of it. We watched it, in international waters.
Arrgh, keep a weather eye on the horizon for new shows.
So anyway, we are deeply sorry that
it really
happened.
Sucks. And I do encourage anyone to pirate it. Honestly, at this point, Paramount Plus is encouraging pirating. The whole thing about how Game of Thrones was the most pirated show of all time because of how popular it was, and that basically encouraged HBO to start their own streaming service, and shows nowadays know that there's no point in hunting down people for pirating. They've learned the lesson that if you just make your stuff legal to get at a reasonable price, most people will just pay for it. Yeah. It's called a business model, and you just need one. And when Game of Thrones was not available anywhere, it was the most pirated show of all time. And it's you had to have cable, and too many young people didn't want to have cable. So now we have HBO Max, Yep. That's what's going to happen here, and Paramount knows it.
I mean, also, let's be real. We know that they count the pirated numbers. They're looking at that too.
Sure.
Oh God, look how many people are watching it.
Yeah, I mean, clearly somebody had to put out that metric, most pirated show of all time. It's
yeah.
Somebody's putting that out there, and they know it, and so just go do that, and then make a donation to your favorite arts charity. To support the arts.
Sure. I'm sure Paramount will be happy with that. But
yeah, with your $6.99.
We're in no way affiliated with Paramount, so I do what you have to, man.
We merely suckle at their teat.
I'd say, please, sir, more.
Please give me some more content.
Suckle at their teat. Anyway.
So we got a disco episode to talk about.
We do.
What did you think? First episode of the new season. Season 4. I'm excited to have new disco. More excited. I am so exhausted this week, and I sat down at this show, and I was very excited. I was able to muster a lot of excitement.
Oh, cool. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I wasn't like, it wasn't, I don't feel like it was as great as an opener as, last season's opener. Last season's opener was just like, knock my dick in the dirt. But, this season, there was a lot to like. There was a whole lot to like. I really did, man. I loved the whole trying to rebuild trust in the Federation. I really enjoyed that whole sequence with the Alshane, and they are really cool butterfly people. It is the exact type of stuff I love to see in Star Trek, the kind of stuff you would see in the old Gold Key comics or old pulp magazines. I always love when Star Trek goes there. Yeah. Because it should. Like, there is, I don't know how the science behind it would work. I don't care. I don't want to know. I really don't. Like, Star Trek has always been, like, to me, equal parts science and fantasy. Like, and there are a lot of people out there who are like, oh, it's too fantastical. That's not, they've actually got the charts and they know how butterfly wings work and stuff. And then I'm like over here going, not on this planet, you don't.
Right. Yeah.
You'll know. It could work. But yeah, I like really weird, cool, fantastic looking stuff. So, I really loved that.
This whole episode was back to sort of the aesthetic of more of an original series, sort of like colorfulness that's going on, a little more fantastical stuff. I mean, honestly, that opening shot, like the music set behind it and that opening shot of that Butterfly People planet gave me such feelings of the original series. Yeah. I enjoy any time you have these characters find a way out of a problem that is not violence, that is not antagonistic. It's like trying to make peace. And I enjoyed the like revels of Burnham, like reveling in the fact that they're gonna, how we're gonna get them to stop attacking us. We're gonna make them better at shooting at us. Like that's a fun, and like it's risky and fun and exciting. And she just believes so boldly in the, like Starfleet mission, the Federation mission, that she's willing to put herself in that kind of danger, which is great. But it also, leads to this thing at the end of the Kobayashi Maru. Like it's very directly tied to the way she goes into situations thinking they can brashly do things and then get out without a scratch. And I have a feeling people are going to get scratched this season.
Yeah, oh yeah. I did honestly think it was a little silly. It was a little too silly that they would, like, during their conversation with Alshane, like, that they would obfuscate an already escalating situation by needlessly pointing out that Grudge is a queen. Like, don't know what, we don't know what that means.
Yeah, that was
don't
weird.
Tell them that. I mean, it was funny.
But yeah, agreed, but it's basic, like, diplomacy that you don't deal in, especially when tensions are heightened, you don't deal in like slang that could be misinterpreted. Like, yeah, it's weird, man.
You're holding a queen captive? We shall rescue her.
We shall rescue the monarch.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that's another good butterfly reference.
Absolutely.
I was a little confused by that whole thing. So I guess they're vegetarians on that planet, for one thing. Which it was like, we don't know enough about these. This is the first time we've ever seen this race, right?
As far as I know.
You really had to listen on your feet as to what was going on in that conversation. Because they're offended by the carnivore, and then they're wanting to rescue the carnivore because it's a monarch. I'm like, do these people care that much about hierarchy? I don't know what's going on.
They seemed very touchy.
Yeah, very, very touchy. And I mean, like, I guess based on past experiences with the Federation and, whatever. And they have some sort of technology that at least they believe is valuable enough for the Federation to want. And that's why they don't trust their presence there.
Well, I mean, they can make butterflies attached to their shoulders and make them fly with their minds.
Oh, yeah. There's people in the Federation thinking what sex stuff they could do with that.
Yeah. Because if Gene Roddenberry taught us anything, it's that the Federation is just full of a bunch of deviants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're like, all right, listen, we got, what do we have here? We have the most amazing holographic technology combined with force fields that like get down to the nanometer of like touch sensation. Like, just amazing technology. We could do so much. We could build worlds. What are we going to do? Sex on the holodeck, baby.
Yep.
This is the sex room of the ship. This is what this is.
Anyway, I liked the reopening of Starfleet Academy. I thought that was cool. I loved that Burnham thinks the new president is just politicking, just checking boxes, ticking boxes. I loved that. It was such a Jim Kirk attitude to have.
Yeah, just very Jim Kirk. I mean, this episode's called Kobayashi Maru. Like, this is like underlining her Jim Kirk comparison.
Yeah. And they did all that. They did it without ever saying the name Jim Kirk.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. I saw, some blowback, about them having this huge room with only 18 cadets. That was Starfleet Academy. But I liked that because I assume this is to contrast what will become later. Like, I can imagine at the end of the season, or maybe even at the end of the series, there is, like, Michael Burnham is addressing all of the new cadets, and it's just like an entire room full of cadets.
Right. It's very possible.
Of course, there's also the, it makes dramatic sense that there should be very few to accentuate the lack of trust in the Federation, but also in real world, there's COVID restrictions. So,
yeah, that's convenient.
But what was cool is, like, do you know anything about this scene? Like, they shot it on that, like, big 280 degree, like, LED projection room, like they do in The Mandalorian.
Okay.
I think that was like the unveiling of that for the show. You know, they're not using green screen anymore. Interesting.
I still haven't decided if I like it better that way. Sometimes it still feels very, unreal to me, and I don't know. It's new technology, and I know it'll get better and better. I mean, I mostly like it, but Mandalorian looks pretty great.
Yep. I liked the little speech that the new president gave. About returning Starfleet to its scientific roots, and dude, my heart swole, y'all. The reveal of the Archer space stock, and they had freaking Dennis McCarthy's Archer theme playing from Enterprise, and I was just awesome. Like, oh, yes. My geek heart is exploding right now. After Ghostbusters Afterlife, I don't know how much more I can take this week. I'm just like, yeah.
I watched Afterlife today, and man, it's good. It's really freaking good.
We should talk about it after the show.
Okay. But into the episode, we'll have a little Ghostbusters section. Yeah,
and it'll probably be spoiler filled because we gotta.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I kind of dug that she was like Cardassian and Bajoran.
Oh yeah,
did you notice that?
No, I didn't. I noticed the Cardassian because we talked about it on the show. But yeah, that's neat.
Now she totally had Bajoran ridges on her nose.
That shows how far we've come in this distant future, that not only, they're Cardassians, but there's a Cardassian and a Bajoran. Like, not only did maybe Bajor join the Federation at some point, but there's a Bajoran Cardassian president. You know, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Of the Federation. That's neat. But, I do miss, Kurtwood Smith. I know there's no way he should be president still of the Federation 930 years in the future, but Kurtwood Smith was like that alien president of the Federation from Star Trek 6.
Yeah, I know.
It's like I just like that guy a lot. So there's some weird stuff in this episode at times. Like, I feel like Are their uniforms made of programmable matter?
I don't know. Why do you say that?
Because Tilly and Adira, like, basically, like, beamed over to that deep space whatever station, and they had on one uniform, and when they beamed over, after they got there, they were in a different uniform.
Well, it's also, it could be programmable matter. It also could just be a transporter buffer thing.
Yeah, they could just put on the black hazard suits.
Yeah, instead of have to actually change. Why would you ever change? If you could literally like, stand in front of a transporter and just be like, I mean, when it's naked time, it's naked time. Then it's waiting to take off boots stuff.
I was just curious. It without thinking about the science fiction of it all, it could seem like a huge continuity error.
Right. It's interesting to see if we see that a lot going forward, and that's just like, now that's how it works. I mean, I dig it. It totally makes sense that you could rewrite the transporter buffer, or like the transporter signal to be, you know, a different way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. One of the things I didn't care for in this episode was there seemed to be a lot of save the cat. Like, it was just
I didn't think Grudge got in much trouble.
Lots of,
the script writing term, save the cat. I gotcha.
Yes. Like,
so,
there's lots
like
of
what?
Just, like the debris on Discovery's hull that, like, Michael had to go fly out and get, and it led to interesting conversations.
Okay, I gotcha. That's not the term I think of for save the cat, but I gotcha. Just a lot of like...
Lots of emergencies for them to take care of before they can get done with the thing.
There's a hitch in the plan, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of that.
Throwing forward. I don't know. I guess I can't think of one that didn't have a good purpose. Like the Burnham thing had the purpose of her showing her impetuous nature to the president, and like that conversation with the president did not feel forced at the end when she tells her that she's not ready, because like she did like abandon the bridge to just go run and like do a space flight because she believes she can solve every problem.
Right.
That's a belief she has about herself.
And I do agree with the president on that, by the way. That Michael is a little reckless.
So who we lose in this season that's going to teach Michael a lesson? I mean, it's going to happen. I think we're losing somebody important this season. Like, for sure. This whole episode's about, like, you've never faced death. And now we've got this thing that, you know, she's going to be put in a situation just like this one, and she still hasn't learned her Kobayashi Maru lesson.
Right.
Even though she had to lose people in this episode, but they weren't her people. If Discovery taught us nothing, it's that they always go in with a plan for a season, you know?
I think that's partially true, yeah.
Like, they do season-long arcs for the most part, or at least half seasons. In the first season, it was half seasons. And I think that by setting this up in the first episode, they're aiming their shot at Michael Burnham's going to have to learn that lesson this season. Maybe she'll learn it earlier, and then she'll have to make more wise decisions halfway through to like, oh, this is even more heartbreaking to me, but like our brash Michael Burnham might have to make a sacrifice play with some of her people because she learns the Kobayashi Maru lesson, you know? Yeah.
I assumed, I don't know if it'll come at the expense of someone, but maybe probably, but you know, I did think about that, the scene at the end of Wrath of Khan where Kirk is like, I've never faced death, not like this. I've cheated death, and patted myself on the back for my ingenuity. And she was exactly doing that. Yeah. And another, Star Trek II reference, you chose the few over the many. And she's like, but no one died. Or like, you know, but they, like, we still saved people. And she's like, yeah, but maybe not next time. Right. You make that bet enough times, eventually you're going to lose that bet, and then you lose the many. Yeah, and I agreed with Rillick, her speech about to Nallus to get him to calm down about his homeworld, and Burnham's like, did you just read his file or have you been there? And she was like, what does it matter? You want to know if I was lying? Yeah. Yeah, like, who cares? It's so good. She got it done. I like the idea of that here, where you've got the politician, right? They're the liar. So you just immediately assume they're sort of going to be the bad guy of the story. But she's sort of proving herself to be the liar with good intentions and good intent. Right. And she's lying, but is she wrong? Yeah. I like that a lot. No, I did, when she's in her spacesuit, out in space, and she asks her if she was lying, I have seen some people complain that was bad writing because she said it over the comms for everyone to hear in front of everyone. And that question should have been saved for later. I disagree because she actively changes the comm. She said,
yeah, she does,
to Rillick. So she was only talking to Rillick. Like, no one else could hear that.
Yeah.
They made a point of doing that. Now, was it smart for her to do it while she was out in space still trying to get shit done? Maybe not, but, Michael's a multitasker.
Yeah. And this show is a multitasking show. Like, this show is, for better or for worse, sometimes I think for worse, it likes to have conversations while the action's going on. Or if there is no action, it likes to fake action with camera work so that you're excited all the time. It likes to keep it sort of pulse pounding thing. I'm reminded of in the first season of those camera shots. They did multiple boardroom scenes, but which is a Star Trek staple. But then to do it they just did spinning cameras around the crew.
Yeah, but I think that's probably smart for now because, one of the things that I have always said, I know there are lots of people who don't want Star Trek to ever change in any way. They want it to be just like it was, and what they really mean is they want it to be TNG.
Right.
But, one of the things that really drags me down, when I'm rewatching things like TNG and DS9 and Voyager is just, there's no camera movement while we're getting these boardroom scenes. It is right. No, I know. A boardroom.
I know. I'm just pointing out that the show likes to have its conversations on the run whenever possible.
They do. Yeah. They studied at the School of Sorkin.
Yeah.
Which every drama show does that now. Every one of them now.
Yeah.
That, so
there's a few, I think they do it to a better, more tasteful way now. In the first season, I felt like a few times I was like, all right, stop the spinning. I get it. You're a fast paced show. Calm down. It felt very, almost distracting from what's going on.
Yeah.
Cause I like a slow contemplative moment. And this episode has them. I don't think it's something this show is doing, but I'm saying, I'm using that to highlight what they're doing now, which is keep them talking, have those conversations in the moment, even if it doesn't really make sense. I actually think that would have been I agree with that criticism. I think that's it could have been a more powerful moment during those final scenes when they're having the one-on-one discussion. But I think they just wanted to keep it focused on Burnham at that point.
Yeah. I really loved that final speech though the final conversation between, Burnham and Rillick. That was a very well crafted conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the seeming contradiction of Burnham being eminently qualified to be captain, but also being not ready because she cares too much and too deeply.
Yeah. Can't be a leader. You can't make dispassionate decisions yet. Yeah.
I just, man, she's attacking her ideology as opposed to her skill. And I dig that. That's, but at the same time, I agree with Rillick, but at the same time, I'm I feel like Rillick wants her to toe the line in a way that I feel like there's a middle ground between the two conversations, between the two places.
Sure,
but,
absolutely.
Well,
and I do think that, I don't think Rillick's saying there's not a middle ground.
Yeah.
That you can't have passion for your crew. But I think she's saying is clearly, Burnham, you're on one side of that extreme. You're overly confident to the point that it's a little ridiculous.
And I love the line in the trailer. I loved it here. There's a fine line between, taking big swings or between being a pendulum and a wrecking ball.
Yeah, great line. You've done amazing things, but all of them are huge pendulums. And in a time of sensitive time like this, there's a small difference between a pendulum and a wrecking ball. Mm-hmm. It's really good. Really, really good. I mean, I knew exactly where she was going with that, but I was like, yeah, it's really good.
And it looks like balance is going to be a real theme in this season, because not only do we get the president telling Burnham a good captain has to have balance. Leadership is about balance. We also have I can't remember his name.
One of Saru's people.
Saru's guy. The guy that caused the burn.
Yeah.
Telling Saru, maybe back in your day, you couldn't do both, but now there can be a balance.
Yeah. Which, I think that he was pointing out how much smaller the universe is now, because travel is faster, the communication seems faster, all of that. But that's something I really seemed to notice this episode. Like, when they wanted to look at Book's planet at the end, which we haven't even gotten to yet, but when they wanted to look at Book's planet at the end to find out where it was, they like just zoomed in on it from wherever they were. And I guess they've got all their satellites back up and running, like all their subspace relays and stuff. And like, they're just becoming the Federation, and the technology is advanced so much they can see everything, communicate with everyone in like, really
I thought
intense
they jumped
ways.
to Quajon.
No, they did not.
Did they not? Okay.
No, they looked at it from wherever they were.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, Book was on the ship, so
yeah,
he got there somehow. It must have been relatively close.
Oh,
I would think.
Yeah, I thought they just jumped back towards the Federation, the main Federation outpost, and he was arriving at the same time or something. But when they jumped at the end of that last jump, they got pretty damaged, so I don't think they were jumping around much.
But yeah, that was rough. His homeworld being destroyed.
Really rough, man. Right as we were talking about the slow contemplative shots, like the beginning of this episode where he's like giving his young child this thing to this like rite of passage, and like seeing hope for the future and the next generation, and then his world is just destroyed. That's going to change Book forever. Like, this is a huge deal for that character. I mean, obviously, I'm saying that like it's a revelation. It's just crazy, man. I almost can't believe they destroyed this entire planet.
Yeah, like, I had a feeling they were going to. Like,
it's like Alderaan if we had cared at the moment, you know? And not just because it's Star Wars, but because, we just met Leia. I know Book.
Right. I felt bad for every one of those dead birds hitting his ship.
I did too. I was like, all those poor birds. I was like, oh, that poor planet. Dang. Guess the birds are the least of our worries.
Yeah, like as he's hitting the birds, I'm like, oh god. And then like he comes out and like the moon is exploding from this wave. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, no. It was nuts, man. It was nuts.
Quajon.
Yeah, crazy. You mentioned Kaminar a second ago, or you mentioned the guy who caused the burn. Interesting that at this point, it makes a lot of sense that at this point is 10,000 years in the future or whatever it is.
930 years.
Yeah.
10,000 years.
I couldn't remember if it was 1,000 or 10,000. I was like, I don't know where the decimal goes, but here we go.
Yeah. No, you know what that reminds me of is, that old, Norm Macdonald bit where he's like talking about how embarrassing it is to bite your tongue, he's like, yeah, I got like, I don't know, 50 or 100 teeth in there, I like a good round number. I never counted them.
That's super funny. Oh, Norm. But interesting that Kaminar has made peace with their, with each other. The oppressors and the oppressed have made peace with each other, and they're like, have a council that's running the planet now.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. It goes with the entire theme of this episode, which, I was thinking about that scene we were talking about at the beginning where you have them solving a problem by helping the people that are trying to kill them to show them that they're of good nature, or they're there to help. It's an interesting strategy, but it's also one you can only I don't know. How interesting is it? Like, how interesting can you be in this situation? Like, if that continues to be the strategy, I'm interested to see how much they employ that kind of thing. And it just seems like they're really doing a shift in how because they're in a building phase where they're trying to make friends around the galaxy to build the Federation. It's interesting. It's also interesting to see when are they going to get their first bit of pushback? I mean, they've already got Osira and the what are they called again? The
Al-Shane?
No, the baddies from last season.
Oh God, I don't remember.
The consortium or whatever they were.
Yeah, something like it. That sounds right.
Something like that. Know. Anyway, you got that out there, but that seems like maybe pretty easily cleaned up, even by just them with their current level of power. now that they've got dilithium and no one else does, and they've got spore drive technology that they're trying to push through and then get a spore drive Voyager or Spoyager, as I'm coining just now.
No. But no, Voyager is being retrofit with a pathway drive. That's like they've got a second generation spore drive in the works, but Voyager J has a pathway drive, which is a different type of propulsion technology.
Oh, my bad. I misunderstood.
Yeah.
She said those two things close together, and I did hear that there could be a distinction, but I guess I thought that's what they were calling the second wave of the spore drive or something. I gotcha.
No.
Cool. Yeah, man. So many things with all this technology. This show, Star Trek in general, changes so much if you can just go anywhere and do anything at any time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're supposed to be watching, like, what did we dream up, you know? Like, that's what the original Star Trek is all about. Like, what do you dream could be in the future? And it's just cool to see them doing it to the point that, like, we're, like, you know, the costume change thing we were talking about. Like, we're like, ooh, how did they do that? It's like, you know, it's like, oh, interesting. They're just doing a whole new thing that we've never even thought to do before.
Yeah. And I'm over here I'm like, okay, so we've got a pathway drive. We've got slipstream drive. Did they ever make that work? Like I'm that guy that's like, okay, so over here on Prodigy, we've got a protostar drive. How does that fit into the timeline of propulsion technology?
Oh, no, I was thinking about that too. We'll have to talk about that on the Prodigy episode tomorrow, but, I was excited, about that and what does it mean? And we don't know because we don't know where they're going to land. And yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. By the way, this is the first week since like 1999 that two separate Star Trek shows aired on the same day.
Yeah, man. That's neat. Can you help me remember? I don't know what's going on with Tilly. What's up with Tilly?
She's a lieutenant now.
She's a lieutenant now. And also she said something like, are you worried about Osira? Well, you deserve this promotion. And I was like, what happened with Osira to make her think she didn't deserve the promotion? I don't remember. Someone write in. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Stu, I'm looking at you. Stu Little always got the answer, man.
Yeah, Stu, help us out. No, I really, I don't remember. I remember they had to do a lot to fight Osira, and they were like about to, like, I don't know, kill all the people down below, and they were all fighting like a rebellion on the ship, and she was trying to get the spore drive. I remember all that, but I don't remember what she did that would make her think she didn't deserve the promotion.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I know she didn't do a really good job with, but she was in charge and Osira took over the ship.
Oh, right. That makes sense. Okay, that might be
Is that what it is?
That's probably it. There you go.
Once again, Stu Little, man.
She became a lieutenant and then almost immediately lost the ship to Osira as soon as she gets her first chance at command. And so that makes sense. Okay, that's right. I forgot that she was in charge.
We need Stu Little to come in and slip us that late night knowledge pickle.
Oh, please don't say late night knowledge pickle again. Oh no, I did it. You know what I thought about watching this episode? And like, maybe I'm wrong, but this is how I feel in this moment. This is my truth, Dave.
Oh, okay. You can't be wrong if it's your truth.
That's right. That's how I couch all my statements.
Yeah.
How much money's in the till? Well, my truth says $143. With very little exception. This to me felt like the first time Discovery felt like a wholly its own show. And what I mean by that is it doesn't feel like it's in any way relying on Star Trek canon. Not that it doesn't have Star Trek canon in the background and all this stuff, but like, you know, we've talked all about how like the first few seasons are so wrapped up in, references to the original series, and then the second season's even more so. And then the third season's all kind of this like sort of denouement of how they exist in the future after what they just went through, traveling to the future. Watching this episode, I almost felt like I was watching a pilot. Like, they're introducing new characters, they're walking around and sort of like showing what the Federation is. They're even like talking about rebuilding the Federation. They explain the burn. Like, everything it feels like almost like its own new show that's starting now. Like, this is a show about rebuilding the Federation in the future, and like, it doesn't feel like it's based anymore on, hey, let's put a Sister of Spock in this show. You know what I mean? Like, the previous seasons kind of always had that dripping off of it of like, this show is almost a little too referential.
Yeah.
This one did not feel that way. And it may the rest of the season may be completely referential. Maybe this dark visage is V'ger returning cloaked or something. But like,
I just assume it's Michael Burnham again. No, I don't know. I don't know that I agree with you, but you know, they're name dropping Voyager in there, and
oh sure, like I said, it's all in the background. But the actual, like, I felt like I could be watching this as a new viewer.
They got the Archer space dock. They got the music from Enterprise.
Like I said, references aren't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, as a new viewer watching an episode, I felt like I could get what was going on here if I didn't know any of that. Like,
I think you could have the whole time, though.
Possibly.
Like, the whole series, I think you could have. Like, and I say that because I'm friends with lots of people on Twitter who Discovery was their first show, and it made them branch out and watch all the other stuff. So
interesting. That's an interesting experience for my perspective, because I don't see it that way. Like, Discovery feels very beholden to the other shows to me. And like, in a way that, you know, as a fan, I can get with, but as a new viewer, I don't see how I would experience that.
See, it's so hard because to me, like, I think, especially with stuff with like the original series, like bringing in Spock and stuff, like the original series is so iconic, like is so like a part of the zeitgeist at this point. Like if you've never seen Star Trek, you know who Kirk and Spock are. Sure. You know, so you know what the Enterprise is and what it means. You know those first few notes, you know, the Star Trek, you know, theme. There's so much.
Right. That's somewhat true. I guess, like, I started rooting for these characters in this episode. Mm-hmm. Like, the way they were introducing the Federation as this benevolent force going around doing good and stuff. I guess they do that in the first episode of Discovery, too. A little bit. With that, those people that they save their water supply.
Yeah.
First episode.
So, I don't know that I completely agree. I feel like it was a little, I don't want to say too beholden to what came before, but I think it is like stepping into its own more.
Yeah, that's really what I'm getting at.
Relying more on its own previous seasons than it is anything else.
Yeah, agreed. That's the consequence of jumping 930,000 years in the future, you know? It's just like a totally different era now.
930,000.
I forgot where the decimal point was.
There's no decimal.
There's always a decimal, Dave.
There has never been. You're thinking of a comma, and there was not even a comma. It was 930.
There's always a decimal. It's just normally silent. It's always at the end.
An understood decimal?
Yes. I'm actually not joking. That's a math thing.
I know, but
it's like there's always a place where it becomes partial numbers or whatever. Fractions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. It's like but they've never given us that.
Anyway, so I think this is a pretty good episode. I'm excited to see what happens with the rest of the season. Any theories about the dark visage that's going around other than that it's Burnham?
The gravity wave?
Yeah.
You know, I don't have theories. I have hopes. Like, you know, I always hope it's, you know, something that we did, some kind of, you know, holdover from the temporal war or something. But
right.
Yeah, I don't have any, like, after what the burn turned out to be, I don't have any hope that it'll be anything remotely interesting.
Oh man, you know what I want it to be? And I want I wanted them to get to the end of the season because it's, this force that seems to be all over the place because it went, for whatever outpost they were trying to save, and then it took out Book's planet, and it's just like kind of jumping around. I want it to be like, it's the protostar, man.
Oh God.
All of this entire season of Discovery is occurring during that jump of the protostar.
Oh Lord. No, you know what? That's actually probably pretty close, because I think it's interesting that they brought up second generation spore drive and a pathway drive.
Right.
I bet it is. I bet it's the pathway drive.
Or something like that. Like, some sort of...
all of the new technology.
Consequences of the new technology. Common theme in Trek. Well, kind of. It definitely happens from time to time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I hope. Because you, like you said, you're hoping it's Burnham.
No, I'm not hoping it's Burnham. I assume it's Burnham.
I thought you said you're always hoping it's Burnham.
No, I'm always hoping it's connected to the temporal war is what I'm always hoping.
Right. Well, I don't know what I hope. I don't know what I want from this. I want it to be something interesting. It's kind of always my guiding star is I want something interesting.
What I want is, inconsequential. Like, there's no, I almost feel like, look, every season, either for Picard or for Discovery, whatever, you and I have come up with better storylines than what they ultimately gave us. It's only hurting me emotionally.
Yeah.
I should empty my mind and just let them do whatever the hell they're going to do and go, okay.
After doing last season of Picard with you and then doing WandaVision, my podcast on MCU Cast, my podcast partners were very disappointed after all their theorizing. I totally get that feeling with WandaVision too. Like, I had so many cool theories, and I was just like, I wonder if they're going to do any of them. Nope. Mm-hmm. No, they did not. There's still time. Okay. Well, anyway, There's Still Time was for Bethany. She'll never listen to this, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Oh, yeah, she does? Oh.
She listens to it.
That was a reference for Bethany. It was a good inside joke from back in the day.
Okay.
Oh, man.
We don't speak of those days. Those were the dark times. I'm kidding.
I get it.
No, man.
So dark.
It's not real. Dark. It's not real.
I know.
Those dark days of owls. Eating Mediterranean food in the middle of the night.
I just made a baked potato with Mexican, like, taco meat on it that I made earlier this week. It was pretty great. It was very much an Al's type baker.
I'm really hungry. Damn you.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of Ghostbusters, then we gotta go because we got another episode to record.
Sure, man.
Yeah. I just think Ghostbusters Afterlife was freaking awesome. It's even spoiler free. Just like, it's freaking great. It's really wonderful character dynamics, quippy dialogue in an actual real and fun way, and doesn't feel forced. It's really good directing, really good comedy, really good writing. I just, man, it's great. And then there's some great surprises in there for fans of the stuff, and I just loved it.
Yeah, spoiler free. I felt like it honored the past brilliantly while making a real decision to move forward in the franchise and making it a modern movie. They didn't try to make it look like, the 1980s Ghostbusters movies, but is very clearly still in that universe.
Right.
And I really dug that.
For sure. Well, let's get spoiler if we like. Spoilers alert, everybody. Just so good getting to see the old Ghostbusters again. Like, that was just amazing. Especially, of course, Ghost Egon.
Oh my God. I didn't think they would do it. I didn't think they would do that.
I knew they would.
I thought we might get like a cameo, like a quick visage maybe, and then like when his granddaughter, I can't remember her name because, Phoebe, when she's discovering, like following the the meter and like finds his, workspace down,
that seemed like what we were going to get, maybe.
And like, the ghost is turning on lights and monitors and stuff. I'm like, okay, we're going to get like a silent, invisible Egon that's sort of guiding her. But then we get to the end of it and he actually shows up.
Yeah.
And
it's a beautiful, beautiful moment, man.
Yeah. He shows up and he's like helping her hold the
proton pack.
Yeah. The proton, pack, helping her fire it. And then he's standing with the guys one last time. Man, and I didn't cry in the theater. I could hear Bethany and my sister gently sobbing. But like I could hear sniffles,
Mm-hmm.
But I was just overwhelmed because I didn't know they would do as much as they did. And I was expecting, like, if I felt like before going in, if they show Egon, I wonder how good it's going to look. But they didn't try to make Harold Ramis look like Harold Ramis looked before in the last several years of his life. They basically, it looked like they took him from Ghostbusters 2 and just kind of aged him up, but still made him look like Egon. Not like Harold Ramis, who had gained quite a bit of weight and also had like a really big bushy beard. Like he just didn't look like Egon at all
anymore, right?
Like for years. So I liked that they took that route with it. But even more than that, like, yes, I've cried several times thinking about it after the movie, but I was just so overwhelmed emotionally. I was just trying to take everything in and compartmentalize it.
Right.
During the movie. But,
I definitely cried. It just, and the way they do it with him standing behind her and just like looking like a granddad helping his granddaughter. Like it just was so sweet. I
definitely got choked up when Callie goes into his work area and sees all of the pictures that he's been collecting and keeping up with her. Like he clearly loved her and cared about her, but the end of the world.
And then when he hugs her, like he disappears, which I don't know that this is a Ghostbusters thing ever said, but like that's commonly used in media to be like once the ghost has like fulfilled its like final regret or something like that. And the thing is like, yes, he abandoned her, but like I think he probably, based on how everyone else was treating him in his life, he probably thought passing the sort of like madness about the end of the world onto her would be like a horrible thing for her, like his lifestyle was not good for her and needed to stay away. And like, just him getting to hug her one last time and then disappearing,
dissipating into the stars. Yeah, that was now like that. In retrospect, the one thing that I kind of don't dig is that, and I understand they had fallen on hard times and financial burden can cause a lot of upset between people, but it kind of bummed me out that like, it doesn't make sense that Ray and the others would not believe him. Because I'm like, you faced this thing before, that the end of the world is possible. Like, you've literally stood on a rooftop and fought this thing that was trying to bring about the apocalypse.
Yeah, I thought I agree. I thought they needed to do a little more work there. Like, they needed to give us a reason why Egon could see something they couldn't or whatever. But like, especially the fact that it was the same deity that they had fought. Like, to be like, it reminds me of, I guess it reminds me of this, but this gives another evidence that kind of supports it. It reminds me of It, like the kids fight the monster and then they find out it's coming back as adults and they're like, half of them don't believe it. They're like, no, it's not happening. That never happened, or that it's definitely not happening again. Like we killed it,
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough to watch. I thought the family, just like in a movie like this, where you have to have, like, there's the sort of fantastical element that has to be introduced. one of the biggest things that a movie like that needs is characters that you can follow for the first 20 minutes and really enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're invested when they get involved with the mystical stuff or whatever the fantastical element we're talking about is. But also, it just makes the first 20 minutes a good time.
Yeah.
And man, this family was good. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, those actors, those kid actors and the mom, like the three of them were such a great comedy trio. And like the way they picked on each other and like were back and forth with those sort of like sarcastic slams, but never in like a mean enough way for it to be bothersome, but like just right. It was really, really note perfect. And I was enjoying them so much that it almost didn't matter what they did with the ghosts because I'm just enjoying this family, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, the thing that chokes me up the most is, I started to say this earlier. Yes, they did a great job with Egon, and that should have been the forefront, and it very much was like a eulogy to the old Ghostbusters movies and everything. But the freaking Winston is like the only really successful one out of all of them.
Right.
And this was the guy who, like, in real life was basically replacing Eddie Murphy.
Right.
And this is the guy that just like shows up like halfway through the movie and is like, they ask him, or Janine asks him if he believes in all this bullshit. And he's like, if there's a steady paycheck, I'll believe anything you say. And like, he was the one guy who wasn't a scientist. He was an everyman, just kind of like,
right.
And I love that when you look at those movies, Winston absolutely was the heart of the movie. He was the heart of the Ghostbusters team. And to have like, second movie comes around, yeah, they got sued and shit, and they're just kind of all scattered. The only one, it's like Ray and Winston are the Ghostbusters at this point, and they're just doing like kids parties.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day here, whatever, 30 years later, he's the only one that still believes in it. He's the only one that still believes, like he said, like he's crazy successful, but he's also like in his heart, he's still a Ghostbuster.
Yeah. I'll always be a Ghostbuster.
And I love that because not only is he the heart in the movies, he is the heart of the franchise really outside of it. Like, yeah, Dan Aykroyd's always kind of hacking away, hoping to get something started. But, for years, there were problems with Harold Ramis saying, no, I don't think that's good. Or Bill Murray wouldn't sign on and he didn't like whatever they were coming up with. And whenever anybody asks Ernie Hudson, he says, I haven't heard anything, but if they want me, I'm there.
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't matter. He's there.
That's somewhat related to the fact that he hasn't had any huge successes outside, and all the other guys kind of had their other careers and stuff.
Yeah,
that worked.
But he's also worked steadily.
Sure. I'm not saying he hasn't, but that's part of.
He's not Bill Murray.
Right. But that's part of why, like, a guy like him would be like, yeah, I'll absolutely do Ghostbusters again anytime.
Well, that would also be a reason why somebody, might hate the Ghostbusters and say, like, I'll never do that again. It ruined my career.
Sure, possibly. I think that, it's kind of neat too. Now he's going to be like the, it sounds like he's going to be like the Coulson or the Nick Fury of the Ghostbusters with that post-credit sequence and him like going back in there and getting ready to fix up the shop.
Yeah. When that freaking containment unit starts beeping.
Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean? Like, do they just need to get the containment unit fixed up? Because, like, what does it mean that all the ghosts have kind of just calmed down? It's just kind of funny. I mean, I realize they had to fight two big threats in the two movies that were like, oh man, these things are apocalyptic level events. But then they like I guess that doesn't happen every day for sure. And it'll be interesting to see how, in superhero movies, Iron Man, for instance, like talking about this as if it's the beginning of that kind of franchise, which would be fun. And I know that's what Aykroyd wants.
Aykroyd has said he wants to do multiverse. he said that years ago. Like,
right.
I say, hey, bring over Kate McKinnon. Leave everybody else, but bring over Kate McKinnon from the 2016.
Yeah, Kate McKinnon's hilarious in general, and she'd be great. But I like, if they're going to continue on and do more things, you know, how Iron Man, his presence in the world creates it's kind of like the Batman phenomenon, where like the presence of Batman or Iron Man creates these supervillains. It'll be interesting to see how that works. Like, if the Ghostbusters come back in force, will there'll be a pushback from the ghost community, or like super ghosts start to emerge, kind of like happened previously?
Yeah, and they could open up the multiverse. They could, like in the first movie, I was telling Jason about this. I was talking to him about it. I said, you know, in the first movie, Janine, going back to this scene when she is talking to Winston, and she says, do you believe in, you know, whatever, UFOs, blah, blah, blah. She brings in UFOs. Like, there's all sorts of, like, phenomenon, like, supernatural phenomenon that we have not touched in Ghostbusters. And I know if they do UFOs, people are going to be pissed because it's going to be, you know, like Indiana Jones again, but everybody, that's not part of it. No, screw you. That can't be part of it.
Yeah, I've always contended that I love that take on the Indiana Jones story, because, like,
I did too.
I thought it was great. I get that people didn't like Crystal Skull, and that freaking monkey swing scene was real dumb, but, like,
I don't even remember that.
Oh, you don't remember Mutt Williams swinging with the monkeys?
Oh, I guess I do.
It was so bad. It was so bad. That's my least favorite scene in that movie. But I love the lead line refrigerator. That's such an Indiana Jones gag. Like, that's such a perfectly Indiana Jones gag.
Yeah. It's dumb, but the franchise has always been dumb.
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole concept of Indiana Jones is like, there's a fantastical thing that has an artifact associated with it.
That thing always turns out to be true.
Exactly. That's it.
Yes.
The thing turns out to be true, and then our archaeologist has to fight a supernatural thing. And then aliens, to me, the Crystal Skulls fit perfectly into that. These, like, super dimensional beings. Of course. Yeah, it's great.
It's like the people who complain about the last two Die Hard movies. They're like, oh, now he's like a god. And I'm like, no, if you actually go and look, he is way more a god than the first three. Especially the first movie, the first and the third movie, he should have been killed. Like, they actually did a YouTube series where a real physician, like, diagnosed everything he just experienced. And I think the first movie he should have been dead at least 14 times.
That's a fun idea for a YouTube series. Having a doctor talk about, like, you just go through any movie and talk about all the times they should die.
Yeah, so it's the premise. He dies hard. It's hard for him to die.
It's literally the premise.
And then, people are like, well, I mean, he was surfing on the wing of a jet. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not that argument. That's a different argument. I'm not saying the last two movies are good. Actually, I did like the number four pretty well. But, I'm not saying they're good. I'm just saying, he's not suddenly a superhero. He was way more in the other ones.
Yeah, I don't know. He's always been a superhero, and it's just like, that's John McClane for you. I do think the first one has like a grounded nature of like him he gets hurt a lot in the first one, which is like something they don't do as much in the subsequent films, where he's like really like blood dripping off his feet. Like, that's part of the charm of the first one to me. When he like walks across glass and like jumps out that window and he's barefoot, and like that whole thing. Yeah. And I love the like conceit that he's barefoot because he was trying to be calm and like rub his feet on the fucking carpet. Like, it's just so good. Yeah. It's just it's all fun. And like, I think there's something to be said for that first one having like a lot of heart because of the pain he's going through. He does become a little less like injurable. Maybe he always dies hard, but in later films, he like walks a little like, oh man, I'm sore or something. But like the first one, you really get the sense that he's like going through some serious pain. Right. I always like that.
But I think it is interesting that movie, it does feel more grounded than the others. But I think it's just a trick of the premise, because the premise feels very real world.
Right.
But, when you actually analyze it, he he went through way more and survived way more. And then it was way less realistic than any of the others.
Right. I get it.
It's really weird. Though my favorite is always With a Vengeance. So
yeah, With a Vengeance is fun.
Between John and Samuel L. Jackson, Zeus. That's a fantastic film.
Really is. Okay, well, dude, we have gone extra long in this Discovery episode.
Sure have.
And we're now talking about Die Hard. We will be letting you guys go. We appreciate y'all tuning in, and let folks know if you have Star Trek fans in your life. Let them know to tune into the Star Trek universe. We really want to grow this podcast and so we can do more of it and do more deep conversations about Star Trek.
And Paramount's not helping us. They just cut off like the majority of our audience, I think.
Well, we'll be right here talking about Star Trek, you guys. Peace.
Joel on true and live long and prosper.
Damn. You got me. Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.